It was Miss Elena Warren's third week at Westbridge High, and already she could feel the walls closing in. The whispers in the corridors, the mocking laughter behind her back, and the way students rolled their eyes whenever she tried to teach mathematics. It was all too familiar. At 26, Elena was the youngest teacher in the school, fresh from university, passionate about numbers and teaching, but naive enough to think that kindness and patience would win over everyone. Her voice, soft yet firm, was often drowned out by students who thought authority was a joke. But it wasn't just the students. Some of the older teachers doubted her too, calling her the rookie, whispering that she'd quit by the semester's end. She smiled through it all, clutching her lesson plans and keeping her secret locked deep inside her. What no one knew was that the gentle, polite young math teacher had spent years mastering judo under her father, a former national champion. Discipline, balance, calm under chaos. These weren't just lessons from the dojo, they were her way of life, but she never mentioned that side of her. She wore glasses, simple blouses, and long skirts that gave her a modest, almost fragile appearance. Her hair was usually tied neatly, and she always carried an aura of quiet respect. To most, she looked like the perfect target. That morning, Elena walked through the hall with a stack of graded tests, her heels clicking lightly on the tiles. The hallway was alive with chatter, sneakers squeaking, and lockers slamming shut. A group of boys stood near the water fountain. Jake, the tall, broad-shouldered ringleader with a smirk that screamed arrogance. Ryan, his loudmouth sidekick, and Ethan, who laughed at everything Jake said even when it wasn't funny. They were notorious for tormenting teachers and students alike, but no one had managed to put them in their place. The principal had given up after countless warnings. "Just avoid them, Miss Warren," the other staff advised. But that advice never sat right with her. As Elena passed, Jake whistled mockingly. "Hey, Miss Warren, how's algebra treating you? Or did you finally give up on us dumb kids?" The boys laughed, slapping each other's shoulders. Elena stopped, turned with a calm smile, and replied softly, "I haven't given up on anyone, Jake, but I'd appreciate it if you focused more on your work and less on showing off." Her tone wasn't angry, it was composed, mature. But to someone like Jake, that composure only made him angrier. "Showing off? Lady, you should be thanking me for giving your class any attention at all," he snapped, stepping closer. She didn't flinch. Her calm eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "Then give it the right kind of attention," she said simply before walking off. That moment, Jake's smirk faltered. No one talked to him like that, especially not a teacher. The day dragged on, but the tension lingered. During her last period, as the final bell rang, Elena gathered her materials and began to pack up. The classroom emptied, and she sighed, brushing her hair back. The quiet was comforting, until she heard footsteps in the hall. A quick glance at the windowed door showed Jake and his friends lingering outside. Her heart sank slightly, not from fear, but from disappointment. She knew trouble was coming. She picked up her bag and walked toward the hallway. Jake blocked her path, arms crossed, grin stretching wide. "Leaving already, Miss Warren? We were just about to ask for some personal tutoring." Ryan and Ethan laughed behind him. Elena shifted her bag slightly, standing tall. "School's over, boys. If you need help, you can schedule extra tutoring like everyone else." Jake took a step closer, his tone mockingly sweet. "Oh, but I prefer private lessons, one-on-one. Maybe you could teach me how to handle numbers." His voice dropped to a taunting whisper. "And curves." The laughter echoed off the lockers, filling the empty corridor with ugliness. Elena's grip on her bag tightened, her knuckles pale, but her expression stayed calm. "That's enough, Jake. Go home." She tried to walk past, but as she moved, Jake deliberately bumped her shoulder hard. Too hard. She stumbled, her papers spilling across the floor. Ryan and Ethan laughed louder. "Oops, sorry, Teach. Guess you need balance lessons too," Jake mocked, stepping in front of her again. Elena crouched down to pick up the papers silently, ignoring their snickers. But when she stood again, Jake shoved her, full force, into the lockers. The metallic crash echoed through the hallway. The sound silenced the laughter for a second. Pain shot up her back, but she didn't cry out. Instead, she took a slow, deliberate breath, straightened herself, and turned around. Her glasses had slipped slightly. She fixed them calmly. The boys waited for the usual reaction: fear, tears, maybe anger, but what they saw instead was a different look entirely. Her eyes had changed, cold, focused, calculated. "Are you done?" she asked quietly. Her tone wasn't loud, but the words sliced through the air like a blade. Jake blinked, thrown off by her sudden composure. "What did you say?" he barked. Elena took one slow step forward, then another. "I said, are you done?" Her calmness unnerved him. "You think you're tough?" Jake scoffed, trying to cover his unease with laughter. "Lady, you're in way over your head." He moved toward her again, hand reaching as if to grab her shoulder, but the moment his arm touched her, time seemed to slow. Her left hand shot up, gripping his wrist. In one fluid, precise motion, she twisted and stepped aside, sending him flipping over her shoulder and crashing onto the floor with a thud that shook the lockers. His friends froze. Jake groaned, stunned, gasping in disbelief. Elena stood tall, her stance steady and controlled. Her voice remained calm as ever. Lesson 1. Never touch someone without permission. Ryan cursed, charging at her out of reflex. She sidestepped, caught his sleeve, and pivoted. Another perfect throw. He hit the ground next to Jake, clutching his arm in pain. Ethan backed up, eyes wide. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. Elena took a small step closer, her calm tone cutting through his panic. "This is what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness." Ethan bolted down the hallway, shouting for help. The echo of his footsteps faded, leaving silence and two groaning boys on the floor. Elena exhaled slowly, then crouched beside Jake, who stared up at her in shock. "You broke my arm!" he yelled. She shook her head gently. "No, I didn't, but I could have." Her words were low, almost a whisper. "I don't like violence, but I will not tolerate bullying. Not in my classroom, not in my hallway." She stood, adjusted her blouse, and began picking up her papers calmly. The sound of approaching footsteps grew. Teachers, students, and even the principal rushing after hearing the noise. They froze when they saw the scene, Jake and Ryan on the floor, Elena standing with unruffled composure, her papers in hand. "Miss Warren, what happened here?" the principal demanded, eyes wide. Elena looked up, her tone even. "They slipped while trying to block my way, sir. I suggest they visit the nurse." Jake tried to protest, but the look she gave him silenced him instantly. He lowered his gaze, humiliation burning through his pride. As the crowd dispersed, whispers filled the halls. "Did you see that? She took them down." "The new teacher's not what she looks like." Word spread fast. By the next morning, every student at Westbridge High had heard the rumor. The quiet math teacher who could throw football players like rag dolls. Elena walked through the halls the next day, her head high. No more mocking laughter, no more whispers behind her back. Even Jake avoided her gaze. She didn't smile triumphantly or boast. She just continued teaching, calm as always. But beneath that composure, she knew something had shifted. The respect she'd earned wasn't from fear, it was from finally standing her ground. That night, sitting in her small apartment, she gazed at the framed black belt certificate on her wall. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. "Judo isn't about fighting, Elena. It's about knowing when not to." She smiled softly, sipping her tea. The bruises on her back still ached, but her spirit felt lighter. For the first time since joining the school, she felt like she belonged. Not because she was accepted, but because she'd shown them who she truly was. But little did she know, that moment in the hallway wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. Jake's pride was shattered, his friends humiliated, and something dark was brewing in their hearts. A dangerous plan to reclaim their power, no matter what it took. The storm was coming, and Elena would soon find herself facing not just bullies, but something far more dangerous.